Because they knew. They probably did like I did in the last 2 weeks. They probably watched all the Gaethje fights. They watched all the Pimblett fights and they said, oh snap, Pimblett's not going to win. And you could call it MMA math, but I call it MMA long division. I'm going to read something for you that might sound a little bit familiar. You might have heard it during Paddy Pimblett's walkout. Off with your head. Dance, dance till you're dead. You know what I thought was very ironic? In the first round of the fight, Paddy Pimblett already looked pretty tired. He looked pretty tired. He looked pretty winded. And I thought, you know what? The irony is insane because this fool, in a sense, on some level, he actually did dance till he was dead. He was dead. All his energy has been expended. He was doing all this stupid stuff. And I was telling people during the Mexican Fight Companion, during the live stream, I said he was doing too much. And I don't mean that like in the Zillennial sense. Like, yo, you're doing too much, bro. I mean, he was just overdoing it. He was overcompensating. And I was telling them, I gave the example like with my lady, Marilena, like when we're having words and we have like a disagreement, we're fighting and stuff. That's the time she's like, she starts overcompensating. She puts the headphones on. I dug my keys into the side, and she's like vacuuming and stuff. It's like, you're doing too much. You're trying to act aloof. You're trying to act like you don't care. You're trying to act like you don't know the gravity of the moment. That dude was so insecure. He was so terrified. That's why he's hopping around and doing all this. He's trying to bury it. He's trying to do something externally different than what was internally. And you could tell, you could spot it a mile away. This dude is overcompensating. He's doing too much. The adrenaline or whatever's getting to him, and he doesn't know how to handle the moment. And he overdid it. He danced till he was dead. And it was basically a prophetic word, this song. Heads will roll. His head rolled quite a bit in this fight. Off with your head, dance till you're dead, heads will roll. This was a prophecy. That fool's head was rolling. It rolled so much that who was the ref? Was it Herb Dean? Whoever it was, they almost called it in the first round. When he got sat down in the first round, laid out on the canvas, the ref was sprinting over there. And it was very interesting what Gaethje kept doing, but I'm going to get to it. He could have finished him, but he didn't finish it. But I'm looking at some more of these lyrics. The men cry out, girls cry out, men cry out, the men cry out. Oh no, that's what they were doing in my chat. I had so many people, and in case you forgot, I put out a prediction video a couple days ago because I wanted to etch it in stone. And I even said in that video, I'm only making this video because I know I'm going to regret it if I don't make a video about it, telling people what my prediction is, because I've been saying it in the streams, but people don't show up for the streams. People, I don't know, it's too long or what, people are working or whatever. But I put up my prediction video and everybody was coming in clowning. Gaethje's too old. He's on that AARP. Paddy Pimblett's too big. He's too tall. The reach is insane. Don't you understand? All I'm seeing is Paddy Pimblett's the dude with no discipline. He's the dude with no willpower. He has to sit in the corner and vape so that he won't eat too much. I don't see Gaethje vaping. You don't think Gaethje's hungry? What's he going to do next? Paddy Pimblett's going to be in the corner doing some methamphetamines to suppress his diet? I mean, I'll give you an exaggerated example so you can see how weak-minded it is, how lame it is. That's the depths that he had to go through so he wouldn't have a sandwich during fight week. It's just different levels of discipline. Paddy's one step away from being Deiveson Figueiredo. I thought it was very interesting. I thought it was one of those instant karma type of moments that he comes out with this music like this, and then he met the fate that he did. I just think he comes out very flamboyant, very rambunctious, and then it backfires. And of course it didn't backfire with the first dudes. Of course it didn't. Look at his resume. And I'm going to get to it. I'm going to touch on it real quick right now, because I don't have it in any kind of notes or whatever, and I don't want to forget. I'm going to touch on it real quick, even though I touched on it in my prediction video. Pimblett did not belong in that cage with Gaethje, but I don't want anybody to be confused. I'm not a Gaethje fanboy. I am not a Gaethje fanboy. Gaethje will get brutalized by Sarukian. It should be illegal. They shouldn't even allow, the commission shouldn't even allow it to happen. Sarukian putting Sarukian in there with Gaethje is like putting Sarukian in there with Ronda Rousey at this point. It makes no, when you're considering who the opponent is, Sarukian, and I know it sounds like, oh, that's stupid, that's a stretch. No. Maybe if it was a different opponent, but when you're talking about Sarukian, it don't matter. You could throw in Ronda Rousey, you could throw in Dustin Gaethje, you could throw in the MMA guru. It doesn't matter at that point, bro. We're talking about Arman Sarukian. So I don't want anybody to get it twisted. I'm not talking down on Paddy Pimblett because I'm a Gaethje fanboy. Gaethje will get pulverized by Sarukian, by Tapuera. It doesn't matter. But I've been trying to tell you guys he didn't belong in the cage with them because of his resume. The last 3 dudes that Pimblett beat, and I know this sounds familiar to some of you, forgive me, I'm reiterating. I'm trying to build a base here. The last 3 fights that Pimblett had, when you look at them individually, forget about Pimblett, put him out of the picture. If you're just having to talk with someone about Michael Chandler, haha, that's funny. He's a meme. He's one of those Bellator failures. Ha 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 ha. Dana White brings people over like him just to embarrass them. Ha ha ha. They laugh at him. Oh, he's just a UFC's punching bag. He puts on a good show, but he can't lose. He has a losing record. Blah blah blah. He can't win. I mean. Okay, we talk about Tony Ferguson. Aha, that guy's a joke. He's like one of the memes of the UFC. The most famous thing that he has in his legacy is he has like those Chuck Norris type of jokes. Ha ha ha. He's a meme. It's funny. He lost a unanimous decision to a microphone cable. Now he's fighting social media stars. Okay, we talk about Bobby Green. Ha ha. The most significant thing that dude has ever done in his fight career is change his name to King. And he's never done anything. He's less than the bridesmaid position. I mean, we all make fun of them. But then when we're talking about Paddy Pimblett and what he did to get to the championship, do you remember how good he looked against these dudes? Do you remember what he did to these dudes? Remember what he did to Ferguson? Remember what he did to... Okay. What do you think Pimblett would do to Megan O'Leary? He'd probably beat her up too, huh? What do you think Paddy Pimblett would do to Henry Cejudo? He'd probably beat him up too, right? I think. I don't know after tonight. What about Paddy Pimblett and Laura Stanko? He probably beat her up too, right? Like it doesn't matter if he beat these dudes. People aren't respecting the proper context. Just think about it. Do one little simple exercise. Think about these dudes on their own. And how do you feel about them? But then you're going to consider them justifiable enough to give him a title shot once he beat them? Anyway, I talked about this too much in the prediction video. I shouldn't be talking about it anymore. And by the way, before I forget, the fight before those 3 fights that were ridiculous, he lost to Jared Gordon. And all the fights before that were creative players. He does not have the resume. He had a resume very similar to Sean O'Malley's. He was protected. It was just like Mickey and Rocky. He was protected. He protected them. They were handpicked, and he got exposed. You could only do that for so long. So now we're here where we are, and I'm going to be honest with you. Gaethje concerned me a little bit at the beginning of the fight, because as soon as it started, I could already tell, and you can go back and watch the Mexican Fight Companion if you think I'm just making this up now after the fact. Paddy looked winded very early. He looked sluggish very early. He looked like the moment Gaethje touched him, he went, oh, snap. It didn't look good from the start. But then Gaethje kept getting touched. And I was like, what is happening? Did they go in on this together? Is there a script? And then I realized pretty quickly, oh, Gaethje's taking some so he can give some. Gaethje showed absolutely no respect to Pimblett's power or lack thereof. So he was just taking the onslaught. He just kept taking it. And then it didn't take me long to see, oh, this is cool. He's going to be all right doing this because Paddy can't do nothing to him. He wasn't fazed by any of Paddy's shots. And then every time Gaethje would touch him, he'd basically sit him down. And it did make me scratch my beanie because in the first round, Gaethje laid him out. He was flat on his back, and it looked like he was out of it. It looked like one of those ones where he was out, and when he hit the canvas, he woke back up. And Gaethje, the ref even sprinted over there. It looked like it was going to be over. He was going to call it in the first round, and it looked like Gaethje backed off. I didn't understand it. And I felt like, am I crazy? Am I biased? Am I just frustrated because I wanted to be definitive because I called it and I don't want to look stupid and I made a prediction video? But no, even Sarukian, when he was doing the post-fight thing with Megan O'Leary, he was like, yeah, Gaethje could have finished it like 10 different times. He said, I don't know why he kept backing off. And I was like, okay, cool. I felt the same way. Gaethje had so many different opportunities throughout the fight and he kept backing up. There were times when Pimblett was clearly rocked. and stunned and had nothing to give. And he was just shalling up. And then Gaethje would even go down to the ground with him sometimes and just seemed like he was stalling. Like if he needed to catch a breath and he wouldn't finish him. And I'd like to point out that when Gaethje went to his corner after the first round, and you kind of have to put the pieces together in the middle of the fight because, things are heated and you kind of catch little pieces of what different people are saying. But Gaethje even said, my coach was mad at me. My coach was very frustrated with me because Gaethje was ditching the game plan. What we saw in the first round, what Gaethje was doing to Pimblett, laying him out, basically almost TKOing him, but then he just decided not to for whatever reason, that wasn't even the game plan. That was just Gaethje getting into that flow state. Gaethje following his, like he used to say back when he barely even came into the UFC, that's my style. It's probably going to get me knocked out one day. I like to just go toe-to-toe and do my thing. That wasn't even the game plan. And what they were saying was Paddy's game plan was you got to take him down. His coach kept telling him, take him down, take him down. And I tried to tell everybody, and they didn't want to listen because they said Gaethje's too old. Paddy's too big. But I told them, everybody that was doubting me in the comments, I said, answer me this. You guys that are disrespecting right now, in the last 2 weeks, did you sit down and watch every single Dustin Gaethje fight and every single Paddy Pimblett fight, professional and amateur, that you could find? Did you watch every single one and learn their habits? Did you watch tape? They probably didn't. People just watch their favorite talking heads and then they rattle off. I was chanclas on the ground. I did my due diligence. I watched all of them, every single round. And I could tell you, and I was telling you, Paddy Pimblett has atrocious takedown entries. They're terrible. They're beginner status. Doesn't set him up properly. They're sloppy. Face plants a bunch of the time. And I said he cannot do that against Dustin Gaethje because he's either going to be catching those uppercuts, those signature Gaethje uppercuts, or he's going to get stuffed. And he could not. The only hope that he had, people kept talking, he's going to choke him out, he's going to choke him out. He couldn't get anywhere close because he couldn't even take him down. Gaethje would have basically had to straight up turn around standing up, and Paddy Pimblett would have had to backpack him like Aljamain Sterling Silver and did like a standing guillotine or something like that. There was no way that Paddy could get him to the ground. The only chance that Paddy did kind of maybe end up having, which was concerning me, was Gaethje and that stupid style of his. And again, I'm not even a Gaethje fan, but when I make a video and I predict it and I call it, I got my reputation on the line, Gaethje. And Gaethje was playing this game, like I already said. He was taking some so that he could give some. But Gaethje, and this is another thing that Sarukian pointed out, and the only reason I kept pointing to Sarukian, it's not like he knows everything, but the reason I'm pointing to an outside third-party source is because I kept thinking, is just am I being biased because I already made a prediction and now I'm just thinking a certain way? But no, I kept feeling like, is Gaethje, like every single time he gets touched, it looks like he's getting rocked? He's turned chinny. Dustin Gaethje has turned chinny. And I know a lot of people make fun of him and they say that he's probably got a touch of that CTE and whatnot and, rock'em sock'em status and it's gotten to him over the years. But I don't know if I've ever seen it as much as I did in this fight. And again, Paddy Pimblett's he's not a one-punch knockout. He's not a two-punch knockout type of hitter. And it seemed like too many times when he was touching Gaethje on the chin, Gaethje was kind of doing some of these things. And Sarukian saw the same thing. And I was getting very nervous about it. And I was thinking, hey, Gaethje, at some point, I know it's different, being an armchair viewer or whatever, but I would think even if I was standing in the octagon, I would be able to realize after 3 or 4 or 5 or 29 hits to the face, I'd be like, you know what? I feel like every time he's touching me on the face, I feel like I'm going to pass out. I should probably start covering and like backing up and sidestep a little bit or something like that. But Gaethje kept taking him on the chin, and there were several times that it looked like he was going to go down, and he looked tired. He's not able to maintain stamina the way that he once did, and he does not have the chin that he once did. And something that I have to point out there, I think is important to focus on. And it's something that fighters do all the time. I mentioned it a couple streams ago. When Paddy Pimblett lost the fight, then all of a sudden, and I'm like horribly paraphrasing here. If you go back and watch it, you're probably going to be like, that's not even what he said, because I don't remember word for word. But the sentiment was that Paddy Pimblett, after the fact, was like, oh, well, he won for a reason. He's a savage and a warrior, and of course, and it makes sense. He's that guy. Bro, you were talking so many papas on the build-up. That's what people do. He's talking so much trash, talking them down, acting like he doesn't belong in there with them. But then when Pimblett loses, he can't have lost to a trash can, right? So then he has to build them up. It's so hypocritical, and I can't stand to see people do that. And I think they need to get called on it. And I think it's also, and I'm not trying to be messed up, but I think it's interesting that Paddy Pimblett pointed out on his post-fight speech the thing about dudes, you know, I got to be careful what I say on YouTube. Dudes kind of pushing the off button on their existence, you know. And he said it with tears in his eyes. He said it very emotional. I'm not trying to make light of it. I'm not trying to make a joke of it. Not too much, but I'm just saying I think it's very interesting. I mean, every time Paddy Pimblett takes the mic, it's kind of like when Adam Sandler posts on Instagram. It's like, bro, who died? He went on the mic and like 3 people died since his last fight because they pushed the off button on their existence. And now it seemed a little bit cryptic because of how he was feeling it. He was crying, and we never seen Paddy Pimblett like this. It was different. And hey, if you know Paddy, maybe you want to check up on him. Maybe you want to see if he's all right. I would reach out to him, even though it's probably going to be really hard to do right now because he's in the hospital. Just so you know. I'm just letting you know where his locations are right now. In case you care about him and you're concerned about his well-being and you want to check up on him, that fool's in the hospital. That fool that was too young for Gaethje, that was too tall, that had too much reach, that was too big, that was going to choke him out. He's in the hospital. And now people are asking, what is next? Well, I was telling you. I told you a couple days ago what's next for Paddy Pimblett. Dan Hooker. What do you think they're going to do with Paddy Pimblett? Do you think they're going to give him Max Holloway? Do you think they're going to give him Charles Oliveira? You think they're going to give him Sarukian? What do you think they're going to do with them? Is he going to display what he just did here and go up? Who's right below him? Dan Hooker. They already set up that beef perfectly. And I don't know who it was, and I don't even know if Paddy Pimblett was in on it. When they set stuff up like this, the people at the top pulling the strings, I have to assume the fighters aren't even in on it most of the time. They're just the pawns. Maybe when it's big names and they're intelligent, they know the game a little bit. Maybe dudes like Conor McGregor that have a little bit more power. Maybe they're in on it. Maybe dudes like Conor and Cowboy are like, yeah, I'll take a dive. Let's do it. But when it comes to this, to Paddy, he probably didn't even know that the UFC was manufacturing this beef with Paddy and Hooker because they knew. They probably did like I did in the last 2 weeks. They probably watched all the Gaethje fights. They watched all the Pimblett fights, and they said, oh, snap. Pimblett's not going to win. And you could call it MMA math, but I call it MMA long division. It's not that simple. It's complicated. But I put the work in, homie. And they probably saw the same thing that I did. And they're like, we got to have something back up. We got to have something backed up. Just like Gaethje lost to Khabib Nurmagomedov. And now he's got the strap, the fake strap, whatever. That's what they were telling Pimblett. Your time will come later. Just like it happened to Gaethje. So they need to keep him on the back burner. They need to keep some kind of entertainment, some kind of enthusiasm, some kind of beef. If he can't get the strap, he needs to have some kind of verbal war. He needs to have some kind of Twitter beef. He needs to have something to keep people engaged and excited. And it's going to be Dan Hooker. I told you 2 days ago, and even before that in some of my streams, Paddy's next thing is going to be Dan Hooker. And Gaethje? I believe the next thing for Dustin Gaethje is going to be Conor McGregor. Because Ilya is going to run. Ilya is at large. He's on the run right now. And he said, if Gaethje beat Pimblett, then I won't fight him. And he uses the most backwards logic ever. He'll say that Gaethje's a bum and he's not at his level. And please don't insult me. He doesn't belong in the cage with me. I'll fight Pimblett if he wins because he's decent enough. But if Gaethje wins, nah, wait a minute. So there was a dude that you considered decent enough that you would fight. But if it turns out he lost to the dude you're calling a bum, then he's still not good enough for you to fight him? Is there any fans out there that's willing to defend him at this point? So Ilya is going to go to 170 and he's going to get brutalized and exposed and humiliated by Makhachev. That fool's life is over. So we're talking about what's next for Gaethje right now. Is it going to be Sarukian? No. It's not going to be Sarukian. Because people are talking about Gaethje and Conor. at the White House. And Dana White will continue to disrespect Tsarukyan for as long as he possibly can. And Tsarukyan will keep going on his world tour, collecting all his trophies and medals and ribbons and side quests until he becomes the most decorated lightweight champion of all time when it's all done and said, with all these side quest victories. But for the time being, it looks like it's going to be Gaethje and Conor at the White House. You think Dana White cares if Tsarukyan is still the number one contender? If Dana White could give Donald Trump, Conor McGregor, and Gaethje at the White House, can you think of any possible reason why he would care to do anything for Tsarukyan? Dana White has made it very clear that he doesn't care at all about rankings. That's not what it's about. And if you even dare question it, he says, don't watch. He doesn't care. It's all about the entertainment. It's all about the money. And I have said, and I'll continue saying it, the best matchup that we could possibly get from Conor McGregor is Conor McGregor and Israel Adesanya. I stumbled upon that the other day when I was looking up for matchups for Conor McGregor, and that would be the ultimate fallen from grace, two former champions, terrible mindsets, can't handle losses. It's the ultimate 30 for 30 matchup. And some Looney Tunes out there say Adesanya's too big. Conor McGregor is less than an inch shorter than Gastelum, who almost beat Adesanya. And most of the time, Conor McGregor weighs more than Adesanya. It's ridiculous. I think that would be the best matchup for Conor McGregor. That would be a fantastic striking battle. But I believe that the UFC is going to give Conor McGregor, Dustin Gaethje at the White House. And after that, after Conor beats Gaethje, maybe, you know what? I don't know. It depends on Conor's stamina. But at the moment, I kind of feel like Conor would take it. I think Poirier was more rounded than, he was always more rounded than Gaethje. And I have a feeling that Conor will beat Gaethje. So maybe Conor and Tsarukyan, even though I said the other day, it depends on what happens with Ilya and Makhachev and the timing of that. Because I think what we can see is Gaethje and Conor at the White House. And then the ultimate of ultimates. We get Conor McGregor versus the Conor McGregor starter kit. Conor McGregor versus the Kirkland Conor McGregor, the off-brand, low-budget Conor McGregor. Conor McGregor faces Dustin Gaethje at the White House. Conor McGregor is victorious. And then we get Conor McGregor versus Ilia Tapuera in Spain. I think that's where we're leading. Paddy Pimblett versus Dan Hooker. Dustin Gaethje versus Conor McGregor. The winner gets Ilia Tapuera. I don't know if that happens after or before Tapuera and Makhachev. And Tsarukyan? Bro, he's probably going to end up pillow fighting in somewhere in Eastern Europe. I don't know.